When you think of Bangladesh, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For a lot of people, it's probably cyclones, maybe poverty. But honestly, that picture is decades out of date. The real story here is one of absolutely incredible resilience, a nation that was literally forged in fire and has risen to become a real powerhouse in South Asia. So let's get past the old headlines and dig into the real story of this amazing country.
First off, let's just wrap our heads around the scale we're talking about. Over 171 million people, all packed into an area smaller than the state of Iowa. That makes Bangladesh the 8th most populous country on the entire planet, and one of the most densely populated, for sure. This incredible concentration of people, well, it's both the engine and the central challenge behind everything we're about to explore.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to walk through 5 key chapters. We'll kick things off with its violent birth, then watch its unbelievable economic rise. After that, we'll explore its unique geography, unpack the paradoxes of its politics, and finally, we'll look at the critical crossroads where it stands right now.
To really understand the Bangladesh of today, you have to go back to its fiery beginning. And this isn't just some dusty history lesson. It's the very foundation of the national identity, something forged through decades of struggle and just immense sacrifice.
Okay, so check this out. It all starts in 1947 with the partition of India. Bangladesh becomes East Pakistan. But here's the crazy part. It's separated from West Pakistan by over 1,000 miles of India. A geographical absurdity, really. And that physical distance was matched by huge cultural and economic gaps. The real breaking point, though, came in 1952, when the government tried to make Urdu the single national language. For the Bengali-speaking majority in the East, this was a total slap in the face. It lit the fuse for a nationalist movement that just simmered and grew for 2 decades, until it finally exploded into the all-out liberation war in 1971.
And we have to be clear, this was a brutal conflict. That 9-month war included a horrific genocide carried out by the Pakistani military against the Bengali people. But the struggle finally ended on December 16, 1971, with the birth of a brand new sovereign nation, Bangladesh.
Coming out of a war that devastating, the world had pretty much written Bangladesh off. You might have heard the famous and pretty dismissive quote from Henry Kissinger calling it a basket case. But oh boy, was this phoenix about to rise from those ashes.
To really appreciate this journey, you have to see the starting line. Back in 1971, this was one of the poorest places on Earth. A staggering 80% of the population was living in extreme poverty. The country was completely shattered.
Okay, now let's fast forward 5 decades. Look at that. The poverty rate plummets to under 19%. This is, without a doubt, one of the greatest poverty reduction success stories of our time. The journey from 80% down to this number, well, that's the story of Bangladesh's economic miracle.
So how'd they pull it off? What fueled this miracle? Well, it all started by tapping into its greatest asset, its people. The ready-made garment industry absolutely exploded, making Bangladesh the world's 2nd largest exporter. But they didn't just stop there. The economy got smarter, diversifying into things like pharmaceuticals and even shipbuilding. And all of this was supercharged by billions of dollars in remittances sent home from the huge number of Bangladeshis working all over the world.
But here's the thing. All of this incredible economic progress is built on, well, a geographical knife's edge. You just can't understand Bangladesh without understanding its deep relationship with water. It is both its greatest gift and its most terrifying vulnerability.
You see, most of the country is basically the world's largest river delta. It's a vast, flat, fertile plain created where 3 monster rivers, the Ganges, the Brahmaputra, and the Meghna, all come together. They deposit this super-rich soil that makes the land perfect for farming. It's no wonder they call it the land of rivers. And this incredible geography gives rise to amazing ecological treasures. Right there in the delta, you'll find the Sundarbans, the biggest mangrove forest on the planet. It's not just a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's a vital natural shield against cyclones and home to all kinds of wildlife, including the iconic Bengal tiger.
But here's the flip side. Here's the burden. Being a low-lying delta makes the country ground zero for climate change. And this quote, it just lays out the terrifying stakes. A projected 3-foot rise in sea level could swallow up 20% of the country and displace over 30 million people by 2050. It's an existential threat that hangs over every bit of progress they've made.
You know, this constant battle with the forces of nature has really shaped the character of the people. And that brings us to the complex and often contradictory side of Bangladeshi society and its very turbulent political system. So looking at the religious landscape, the country is overwhelmingly Muslim.
In fact, it's home to the third largest Muslim population in the world. And while Islam is the state religion, the constitution also protects secularism, and there are important Hindu, Buddhist, and Christian minority communities as well.
Now, politically, for more than 30 years, the scene was dominated by one single thing, a bitter rivalry between two incredibly powerful women, Khaleda Zia and Sheikh Hasina. This era was famously called the Battle of the Begums, and it created a super polarized and often chaotic political environment. Sheikh Hasina's later, long-running term delivered amazing economic growth, for sure, but it definitely came at a cost.
And this is the great paradox at the core of modern Bangladesh. While the economy was booming, democratic freedoms were actually shrinking. Accusations of authoritarianism, of corruption, and of widespread human rights abuses just got louder and louder. It got so bad that in 2021, the United States actually slapped sanctions on the country's elite security force, the Rapid Action Battalion, for things like extrajudicial killings and torture.
Well, that simmering tension between economic progress on one hand and political repression on the other, it finally just boiled over, pushing the country into a dramatic and, pretty uncertain new chapter. And then, boom, in August of 2024, the dam just broke. A massive student-led uprising exploded across the country. It was this furious protest against years of what they saw as authoritarian rule, and the movement just grew and grew until it became so powerful that it actually forced the Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, to resign and flee the country, ending her rule of more than 15 years.
So, in the aftermath of this political earthquake, an interim government had to be formed. And it's being led by a globally respected figure, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, Muhammad Yunus. He now faces the truly monumental task of trying to steer the nation towards new elections and, hopefully, a more stable and democratic future.
So this is really the crucial question for Bangladesh right now, isn't it? After decades of proving its economic resilience beyond a shadow of a doubt, can it now build a political system that's just as strong? Can it finally match that incredible economic growth with genuine democratic freedom?
When you really look at it, the story of Bangladesh has always been about the will of its people. From that initial fight for their language way back in 1952 to this most recent uprising for democracy, the nation's entire history is this powerful, ongoing testament to an unyielding spirit that just refuses to be silenced. The next chapter? Well, it's still being written, but if history is any guide, you can bet it will be forged by that same incredible, unstoppable resilience.